Hi, my name is Lisa Adam, and I'm with the Museum of South Texas History, here to tell you another story about a unique object in our collection. Today I brought a beautiful mineral specimen. It's pretty amazing, and if you looked at this long enough, you actually might start feeling thirsty, because this is pure salt almost, or sodium chloride in chemical terms. This is mass of salt crystals that formed at a famous salt lake in the very southern tip of Texas. And this salt lake has so much history to it, and I'm going to start that history by showing you this reproduction or copy of a Spanish colonial map from 1792. Now, just to orient you, here's the Gulf of Mexico, and here's the Rio Bravo, also called the Rio Grande. And if we go upriver, you can see that the salt lake is clearly drawn on the map, and it's labeled Salina de los Reineros. And that's because the Spanish colonists at the nearby town of Reynosa, the Reineros, were mining and collecting the salt and selling or trading it. You can also see on this map that there are depictions of Native Americans with bows and arrows. And I'm sure that they knew about the salt lake because some of their stone points have been found near the lake, and they were probably hunting animals that gathered there. This lake eventually became known as La Sal del Rey, and sometimes it's written as El Sal del Rey, as we see it here in this rare book. Now, La Sal del Rey was very important to the Spanish crown, or king, as symbolized by the crown here, as well as the Spanish colonists, for several reasons. For one thing, the settlers in towns like Reynosa, Camargo, and Mier were raising a lot of livestock. And remember, this is before refrigeration. So in order to preserve the meat from their animals, they had to have salt to cure it. They would also use salt to tan animal skins into leather, and they could also use salt in a dyeing process to dye fabrics. What's pretty interesting to think about is some of this salt might have been collected and sold or traded very far south into what is now Mexico, because salt was very important to be used in the mining process to refine silver. So for instance, salt from lakes near us might have ended up to refine silver to produce a beautiful plate like this, which dates from the late 1700s or early 1800s in what's now Mexico. This salt from the Salt Lake was very important during the Civil War for the Confederacy, but that's kind of a whole other story. But the salt continued to be collected all the way up until the 1930s. And here from the museum archives, we have some photographs from an old scrapbook that show the Salt Lake. Here are some people that are just relaxing, maybe enjoying a picnic underneath some kind of shelter. Here's a man and a young boy with a rifle, and they might have been hunting, again, some of the birds that gathered at the lake. This is a good picture of the Salt Lake, and the white is the salt that's starting to form as water evaporates from the lake. And here's a boy who's just sitting on a big pile of salt. So this Salt Lake has been important since prehistoric times all the way till today. And I mentioned earlier that a lot of animals, birds, would gather at the lake, and today the Salt Lake is part of the lower Rio Grande Valley Wildlife Refuge. And you can visit there, but if you go, be sure to be careful of nesting birds, not to disturb them, and also be sure to take some water, because you might get thirsty looking at all that salt. Thank you for listening to one of our unique stories from the collections of Museum of South Texas History.